Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of Bay 13. Bay 13 is going to be a podcast talking about cars, anything about cars, hanging out with the guys, and kind of going over whatever else comes across in our minds. This first episode is going to be a little different. It's going to be more of an introduction and my history and where I come from. And so, with that, let's jump right in. I started out in automotive, not really doing a whole lot, mostly just helping with my friends, helping build their cars and their trucks, and kind of going over light diagnosis and trying to figure out what's wrong. I helped one of my friends, Alex, with his truck many years ago. We replaced the head studs and head gaskets, and at the time, that was one of the biggest jobs I've ever done. And it was a really big learning experience. Even bigger learning experience because we did it in his backyard with a table we built out of wood and, a little tarp shade to keep the sun off of us. Kind of after that, I didn't do a whole lot in automotive through high school. My high school didn't have an automotive class or anything to do with cars. It was pretty small. It was a charter school. I think there was only about 250 kids at the peak of the school. But after it shut down, I had to make a choice whether I was going to go to our other public schools in the area or if I was going to try and find another smaller charter school near me. I ended up choosing neither of those options and kind of jumping in straight into college, which at the time I thought was a really good idea. I took a light maintenance and repair class, and that kind of went over how to do things like oil changes, how to patch flat tires, and other things like that, basic alignments, how electricity works, and all of that. And kind of towards the end of that program, it was a really good thing because we got to go to an internship at one of the dealerships that we live close to. And I chose a Ford dealership because it was less than a mile away from my house. And I think that was a great opportunity, and I had a really good time there. Starting the internship, I was paired with an old guy named Dave. And he was kind of grouchy. He's been doing this since way before I was born. He oftentimes got frustrated with my lack of knowledge, just because he knows so much, he can't understand how somebody knows so little. Getting this internship and going and doing this at the dealership kind of gave me a chance to apply what I'd learned in the light repair and maintenance class. And it was actually a really, really fun time. I did that for about a week, but on day 3 or 4, management there was happy with my abilities and they saw a lot of potential in me wanting to learn. And so they wanted to keep me on for a little bit longer. And that internship was the ending of the light repair and maintenance class. It was the last week. And so after that ended, I had to make another decision. And this is one of the biggest decisions I've made in my whole life. And that decision was to join the Ford Asset Program at the college. I didn't want to wait for the program to start over in 2 more years. And so what I did was I talked to the dean of the school and the instructor about letting me in early, starting that program on the 3rd term instead of joining on the 1st with everybody else. Doing this was a pretty hard task to accomplish. There was a lot of paperwork involved. I had to sign a lot of things. I had to talk to a lot of people and kind of do a lot of interviews with not only the dean, but of the instructor of that class as well. And I decided that I'd rather start a little late than not at all, or in the next 2 years. Being the new guy on the team, it wasn't always the best because everybody already knew each other, and then I had to go and learn everybody. And I got teased a lot for being the new guy, and I got teased for being quote-unquote green because I didn't know too much about automotive at the time. Through this program also gave me to continue my internship at the Ford dealership and to keep learning even more than what I had in previous class. But the best part is this time going back into that internship, I quickly learned what porting was. Porting is a term used for a couple people in the dealership that will take the cars out back and rearrange them so the back lot's not always such a mess, and they'll pull cars up front for customers that are waiting. And while it's good and it's an important thing to do in a big dealership, it's definitely not what I wanted to be doing as a learning technician. But that's just one of the things that you have to do when you start out new. After that, I went back to working with Dave, and I started learning things like alignments and suspension, how to do a lot of brakes. I did a lot of brakes in my first year. I also did quite a lot of alignments my first year. I never really got good at alignments. They were never something I really enjoyed, but they were done and I did an okay job at them. A little later on, I started to enjoy interior work, working with interior plastic trims, how to reprogram modules, and how to replace pretty much everything on the inside of a car. Not the engine, not suspension, not driveline, none of that. That's, it's nice and fun to do all that for a little while, but what I really like to do is interior. Uh, that took about 10 weeks in the dealership, the second part of my internship. After those 10 weeks, you have a week off where you can kind of enjoy yourself, or you can continue working for that last week, which I usually did. After that, we go back to school and learned even more than I thought I ever could. Learned a lot of things on engine repair, engine performance, diesel engine performance, and NVH, which is noise, vibration, and harshness, which I think was one of the most difficult courses because you had to drive a car around, try and find a noise, and then try and find what caused the noise. Going back to school is also the time to make friends and to continue making friends with people that I've known from before and throughout the program. After about a year and a few months, the asset program for me and for everybody else ended. But the difference for me is that I still had to go back and do the first 2 terms that I missed in the beginning of the class because I started late. And it was kind of bittersweet knowing that I probably won't see many of my classmates again, and the ones that I do see will be very infrequently when I go to visit other dealerships to grab parts. One of the better things about that, though, is starting the asset program with a brand new class to finish what I missed in the first class. And it was kind of nice being the top dog in the class, knowing more than everybody else, kind of, being the class clown a little bit, trying to make it fun for everybody, because I do know how stressful it can be. And making friends in the new class is always a good thing. A lot of great people, awesome students. Everybody is really willing to learn. It's just a good class. There's a few people in it that I think have a lot more to learn than others, but I guess that's really with every class. In the last class, that was me. I was the one who didn't know too much. And kind of going around, I was the quote-unquote teacher's pet, I guess, because he knew me more than everybody else. And so I was usually the one stepping out of class, going to help fix a car before a lab was set up, or trying to diagnose something before everybody else got to it so I can tell the instructor what the problem was so he can grade people in it. Just doing kind of the easy tasks like that. After the class got out, it was time to go back to work. This time going to work, it's paid and it's full-time, and I think it's pretty awesome. When I started working full-time, I got assigned to the green team, which I think is kind of funny because green is the term to use for people who don't know as much as others or a lot about automotive, even though where I am now, I learned far more than what I thought I ever could. I got assigned my own stall, which is Bay 13 in the dealership. It's typically the haunted bay of the dealership. It's where all the unlucky work goes. And I guess nobody else wanted it, so I got it. And I'm dealing with it so far. But from pretty much then on, I was always the interior guy. I worked with interior, I worked with electronics, doing a lot of wiring repairs. Working at the dealership has been a lot of fun. I've made a lot more friends with the other techs, and I oftentimes ask for a lot of help and kind of to get their idea on things because they've obviously been doing it way longer than I have. I've only been in the automotive game about 2.5 years now, and many of the other people I work with have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. I know we went over this pretty fast, and if you guys do have any questions, you can always email me at bay13@gmail.com, and I'll try and answer any of the questions you have in one of the next episodes. But for now, I think that's gonna wrap up our first episode, and we'll see you back here in about a week for episode 2 of Bay 13.